So watched the Netflix Guillermo del Toro version of Frankenstein last night. My wife and I were both very excited about watching this. Like it was actually on our Halloween list, but then when we realized it was happening after Halloween, she actually agreed to watch it in November. That's how excited we were. And if I'm being real with you guys, I was a little bit disappointed in it. Now hold up, hear me out, okay? Granted, I went into this thinking like this is Guillermo del Toro, Oscar Isaac, Mia Goth, Christoph Waltz, like Charles Dance. I mean, like, good lord, you're talking like a stellar cast, stellar director. So I did what I very rarely do these days, and I went in with very high hopes. Now, I'm not saying that this was a bad movie. Okay, it was okay. It was all right. It doesn't get like a firm recommendation for me. It's far from the worst. Okay, it was a very pretty movie, like atmospherically. It was very visually interesting. And again, like all of the acting was very competent. Guillermo del Toro did a good job of really making you sympathize with the monster. And I'll start with my issues with the film there. So there was a version of Frankenstein that was released in the 1970s and was made for TV called Frankenstein: The True Story. And I remember it had James Mason in it, and a couple other people. All right. And this was a very unique take on Frankenstein that, again, garnered a lot of sympathy for the monster. It was actually kind of interesting because in that one, when the monster first comes out, he's very handsome. And, Victor is very proud of his creation. And then the monster looks in the mirror one day and realizes that he's deteriorating. And you feel awful for it. Um, and again, Guillermo del Toro does a good job of making you feel bad for the monster, but I was really kind of hoping that he would balance that more with like the monster actually becoming a monster, the monster being driven to do these awful things. If the monster can do awful things, but you kind of understand and still feel bad for it, then you've nailed that exact beat. This was just sympathy for the monster. There are elements that happen in the book, particularly regarding Elizabeth, that occur a little bit differently in this one that make the monster just a tragic character. I mean, there's never an act of violence that occurs on behalf of the monster that isn't an act of self-defense or something like that. It just it just kind of missed out, I feel, on that, and I think he leaned too much into the sympathy of the monster. The fact that a made-for-TV film from the 1970s can depict that better than this film, I find to be kind of disappointing. And not for nothing, I think that Guillermo del Toro might have seen Frankenstein: The True Story. It wouldn't surprise me because he was, I believe, a producer on Don't Be Afraid of the Dark, which came out in 2011, which was a remake to a 1973 made-for-TV film of the same title. And he put his own little stank on it. So I wouldn't be surprised if he saw that and he's like, I'm going to go for that, but I'm going to try and make the monster even more sympathetic. Now, in terms of the actual physical monster itself, it's pretty good to the description of the book. Very tall, with handsome and grotesque features and long black hair. So they did a pretty good job with that. The other thing that kind of bothered me is, I mean, they took some liberties with the character of Elizabeth and other characters in the story. Now, granted, I haven't read Frankenstein since probably like senior year of high school, so it's been a minute, but there are certain things that I do remember. And when you see the monster, it's so childlike and it has sadness in its eyes before it can really articulate its thoughts and feelings. And she immediately sees it and has compassion for it. And I mean, the way it came across to me, at least initially, is that she sees it like as the childlike thing that it is, and she has empathy as a human being. And you find out sort of later in the movie that no, there is kind of a romantic element to it. And it's like, I just got to ask, what is it with Guillermo del Toro and the monster fucking? She doesn't fuck the monster in this movie, but it's a romantic thing that's like, what? I don't know. And like, again, I said that this was a very pretty movie, okay? But in a lot of cases, I think that it was somewhat style over substance. There was CG in it that it wasn't like the worst CG, but it was noticeably CG. I mean, it was probably cheaper than it was all involving animals, so you know it was probably cheaper to do that than to actually like get an animal wrangler and everything. But still, it was a little disappointing. The biggest issue that I have with this movie, honestly, why the hell is Frankenstein's monster Wolverine all of a sudden? I'm sorry. I know that the Kenneth Branagh version, there are some things that people like, you know, kind of poke fun at, like the nude monster and the shirtless Kenneth Branagh all greased up, like rolling around in the slime together and stuff. But it's like everything that they incorporated into that, like taking the amniotic fluid and stuff like that and sort of birthing the monster through it. There was like a scientific, you could suspend disbelief to be like there was a scientific method to how this was done. Okay. For some reason, in this version, the Frankenstein's monster, it's not even that he can just take a beating, he immediately heals. And it's like, why is he Wolverine? Why does he get it? Just seems so fantastical. And a lot of points in this movie, I was thinking to myself, I'm like, this reminds me of like a Tim Burton movie. This reminds me of like Edward Scissorhands. And my wife said the same thing. It didn't quite even feel like a Guillermo del Toro movie. It really felt kind of Tim Burton-y in points. But it's like, what is the, maybe I'm reading too much into it, but what the hell is the science behind the monster regenerating? Like, what the hell is that? You know, it's like like lightning. Okay, yes. You know that if you send an electrical current through a dead body, you can get muscle reactions. Okay, so that in and of itself, you know, and whatever pseudoscience, you know, Victor Frankenstein used, you're like, okay, so he used the electrical current and some other shit and did this. But how the hell do you explain the regeneration? Like, that's just too fantastical. It's dumb. And I got to be honest with you, I was actually pretty thoroughly disappointed in this movie. Uh, you know, I understand that he was trying to make it his own vision, and it probably doesn't help the fact that I mean, how many renditions of Frankenstein have been done at this point? Like 200 more? You know, I mean, holy hell, there's been so many versions of Frankenstein. It's kind of difficult to breathe new life into it, you know, and it was actually funny, a point by my wife when we were talking earlier, she said, you know, this, like when Frankenstein was written, it was like at the beginning of the Industrial Revolution and everybody was kind of like, you know, freaked out and shit. And it's like, so if you want to make it like translate better to modern day, you know, say, I mean, it was a period piece, so clearly he did. But if you wanted to do something new with it, you could take, you know, hone in on everybody's fear of like AI or something like that. It could be like a Lawnmower Man situation, you know, where it's sort of like the moment that the doctor realizes, like, shit, this thing is smarter than me, you know, like that could have been cool. But that's just one suggestion. I don't know. I just like, again, it was a pretty movie to look at. Everybody in the film was great, but it just, there was nothing special about it. You know, it's Frankenstein. We've seen it a million times before, except this Frankenstein is like Wolverine and does nothing wrong, you know, and there's a sort of weird brief romance kind of shoehorned in there. I don't know. I just, you know, I typically don't go into Guillermo del Toro films like thinking I'm going to check my brain at the door or like, you know, this movie's going to be mediocre. Or, oh, we'll see. I'm always like, this is going to kick ass. But yeah, in this case, thorough disappointment. But how about you guys? Did anybody see this film? If you did you like it? I think a lot of people did like it. So please feel free to comment below. Let me know why you think I'm wrong or why you think I'm right. Thank you for watching. And that's all she wrote.